Strike over non-payment of allowances. 2 policemen killed in Oshomale's convoy crash. In international news, schools reopen in the UK and China amid strict COVID-19 measures. And in sport, NFF to unveil Eagles' new jerseys.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria's COVID-19 cases now stand at 54,247. Despite continued decline in the daily infections in Nigeria, there has been a slight uptick in the number of deaths as NCDC recorded 10 fatalities on Tuesday. A total of 1,023 infected persons have died so far. The new cases, 239, were recorded in 15 states. Plateau again maintains the #1 spot with 116 infections, followed by the Federal Capital Territory with 33. Lagos has 19 cases, while 12 other states also recorded new infections. NCDC confirmed more than 42,000 persons have recovered from the virus. There are still more than 11,000 active cases in the country. Resident doctors in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, have begun an indefinite strike action over non-payment of COVID-19 hazard and inducement allowances to health workers. They also have other among issues. The Association of Resident Doctors in the FCT reached a decision after the expiration of an earlier 14-day ultimatum given to the FCT administration. The doctors say despite sundry promises, the FCTA is yet to pay the healthcare workers in various hospitals and isolation and treatment centers. The doctors say the strike will remain in force until all demands are met. Exactly 5 days after the latest Okpebi helicopter crash, the state government has begun reconstruction of the collapsed building. Meanwhile, Accident Investigation Bureau says it is still at the evidence gathering stage into the cause of the accident. Chief Executive Officer and Commissioner of the AIB, Akin Olataru, says the absence of a flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder known as non-innovation parlance as black box will not affect the gathering of valuable evidence concerning communication between the control tower and the crew that flew the helicopter. Olataru says a team of proficient investigators from the Bureau is already working to unravel the cause of the crash. They clarified that Bell helicopter does not have the built-in technology to eject fuel because it is a very light aircraft that does not have capacity to jettison fuel. He cautioned against tampering with evidence at the crash site. He has asked the statutory bodies mandated by governments as first responders to step up their game. The helicopter crash claimed the lives of 3 crew members. Media aide to APC former national chairman Adams Oshomale has alleged assassination attempt on his boss who survived Augusta motor accident on Tuesday. Sadly, 2 policemen lost their lives while several others sustained serious injuries in the accident which happened along Bini-Ore Highway when a trailer rammed into the backup security vehicle of the Edo State former governor. The victims were traveling with him to catch up with APC candidate Pastor Osage Iseyam. Eyewitnesses say the trailer rammed into the rear of the vehicle conveying the policemen, forcing it into the bush. Nigerians have expressed their displeasure across all social media platforms about the adjustments raised by power distribution companies Discos. The Discos say the new rates are categorized by the number of hours a customers are supplied electricity. The company also says the new rates will provide a path for transition to full service-based cost-reflective tariffs by July next year. Nigerian Labour Congress and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria say the action will add to cost of production with attendant implication for the consumers. EEDC Head of Communications, Emeka Eze, says the tariff increase was not a unilateral decision by the company. He said it was approved by the President and the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission and ERC. EKEDC General Manager Corporate Communications Godwin Idemudia explained that the new tariff will not affect customers that enjoy fewer than 12 hours of electricity supply. He said it had been designed to ensure that customers pay tariffs that are commensurate with power availability and service delivery. 7 electricity distribution companies, Eko, Ikeja, Abuja, Enugu, Ibadan, Kaduna, and Benin, have started implementing the new rates. The federal government has assured religious bodies that the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 is not targeted at churches, mosques, and other religious bodies. But the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, wants President Buhari to suspend the act. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Ita Enang, sought to add oath to assure the church leaders about the President's commitment. The presidential aide alleged that some politicians, especially those in opposition parties, had, quote, wrongly characterized CAMA as an anti-religious law. Enang explained that the bill was initiated by a senator and not by the executive arm of government, as widely speculated.
Coming up, African stories. Historic peace deal signed by the Sudan's rebel groups, spurring feelings of hope that peace has finally come. And later, international news. Schools reopen in the UK and China amid strict COVID-19 measures.
You are watching ANN.
This boy, I could tell your mama for you.
I go tell your mama for you.
Just wait, I go tell your mama for you.
Make you wear your mask. If not, I go tell your mama.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. A historic peace deal has been signed between the Sudan's interim leadership and rebel groups. This puts an end to more than a decade and a half of conflict among rebel fighters from the 4 South Kordofan and Blue Nile states. Correspondent Patrick Oyet is in Juba.
The agreement is between Sudan's new government and an alliance of 9 rebel groups from the western region of Darfur, South Kordofan and Blue Nile. The deal includes a security arrangement that dictates that opposition forces be integrated into Sudan's armed forces. The peace agreement gives more powers to state and local governments. It also provides for a transitional justice and a return of people who fled their homes due to war and reparation.
By signing the comprehensive peace agreement today, we will have turned the page on war forever, and I see this historic moment to call upon the other opposition movements to join peace now and not tomorrow, and to forever renounce fighting.
However, a faction of Sudan Liberation Movement led by Abdel Wahid Al-Nur and a group of the Sudan People's Liberation Movement North, headed by Abdelaziz Al-Hilu, have rejected the security arrangement and are not part of the deal. They say they don't want their armies integrated into Sudan armed forces at least for the next 20 years. Sudan's government says it will continue to engage the groups to reach a peaceful settlement.
This peace agreement covers the political situation and security arrangements in the whole of Sudan, and also the economic situation. Full development will only be realized in our country by this comprehensive peace agreement.
The rebel forces have been fighting against what they say was economic and political marginalization by the government of former President Omar al-Bashir. The opposition forces are largely from the non-Arab minority groups. Peace talks have been going on in South Sudan for a year.
I would like to express my appreciation to the parties for accepting the call for a just and peaceful settlement of the conflict through political dialogue, and for accepting our offer for mediation.
The United Nations says about 300,000 people have been killed in Darfur since rebels took up arms there in 2003. Sudan's transitional government says it is committed to ending violence in the country. Previous peace deals, including one signed in Nigeria in 2006 and Qatar in 2010 during the time of former President Omar al-Bashir, failed to end civil wars, but the new deal signed in Juba is raising hope among many Sudanese people who say there is now a new government in Khartoum that they believe will implement the agreement.
The issue of school reopening is one of the main challenges facing many African countries as the coronavirus pandemic still rages on. Some countries have reopened schools under strict COVID-19 restrictions, while others have continued with online classes. But Kenyan teachers have resumed private classes. And correspondent Nick Mudimba reports.
Many schools across Africa are slowly becoming ghost learning institutions. It's no longer a rosy affair as students are kept in suspense over reopening dates. This flower garden now being put to other uses, growing crops, disused desks and books all paint a gloomy picture. And as debate over reopening of schools rages, Joel Kariuki, a teacher by profession, is growing impatient. He has opted for a hands-on approach with his pupils.
I have a very active art club that every week we must meet and we must do some art activities and art projects. And through the same projects, I have seen very young boys and girls grow to become the best artists we have in the Republic.
His wife, Salome Njoki, is also a teacher. Their lives have changed with the fact that now their income isn't consistent, but they choose to focus on the societal impact than just waiting for the pay. Not an easy season, but satisfactory. Some schools have opted for virtual lessons, but not every parent can afford the infrastructure to keep their children learning virtually.
It is not very easy unless the parent is here to monitor, and you have to be with the kids to run together with them. But when you are not, it becomes a bit difficult.
Even after having sessions with his own kids, Joel makes sure he visits his students who are passionate about creative arts. With the consistency, he is satisfied that even when the schools are opened, the students would have made strides and will catch up quickly.
Every other day we have to have a program. We do some art, sketches, drawing, recycling of waste materials like papers, and we have made some nice art pieces.
For the parents who also can't wait for the opening of schools, Joel has been a gem at this difficult time. He does all the work pro bono, understanding the background of so many parents in his locality.
He has been very helpful because even the book he's using, it's a teacher who published it, and we bought it at a very fair price. We didn't spend so much money.
Private schools have partnered with a local bank in Kenya to roll out a nationwide online teaching and learning for its 2.4 million children during the COVID-19 pandemic, though many of the students can't wait to get back to school.
I'm not comfortable being not at school because in school we are learning, but I will have to accept what is happening here. But I hope the virus will go and we'll go back to school.
With many countries across Africa contemplating to open schools under strict protocols and guidelines, many teachers have now conformed to a post-pandemic culture that will guide and steer them even when the pandemic is over.
When we return, international news. Schools reopen in the UK and China amid strict COVID-19 measures. And later, sport. Nigeria Football Federation to unveil Eagles' new jerseys.
You are watching AN.
Welcome back. This is AN News. Many European countries are moving toward reopening schools, even in the midst of COVID-19. The UK reported last weekend its largest rise in new infections since May, with nearly 1,800 persons testing positive for the virus. Amid fears of a spike in COVID-19 cases, schools in the UK have reopened. Correspondent Ilo Ab David reports.
Failing to reopen schools is not an option, says the UK government. Education has been disrupted since March, and there's acute concern how a whole generation could be affected. It'll be back to basics for the first month.
Week 1 and 2, health and well-being and mental health. Week 3 is we're going to focus on testing our children, assessing their where they are in numeracy, literacy, in the basic core subjects, and then in the 4th week we will start teaching. So it's going to take quite some time, and then bear in mind that in our classes the children are going to sit in one class all day.
Schools in Scotland and Northern Ireland opened last month. Teachers, more than children, became infected in one Scottish area. Classes in secondary schools will be separated as much as possible, and most UK schools will expect pupils to wear face coverings in public areas. Students older than 12 will be expected to wear masks. It could add to anxiety so many families and school staff may already feel.
There definitely is an impact in terms of the uncertainty and the worry that comes with that. But I think it is really important that children do go back to school because they need to be with their friends, they need to play. That social element I think is really important. And I think children are going to be going back to school with very different experiences.
Schools are being asked by government to teach an ambitious and broad curriculum as soon as possible in all subjects, but there'll have to be an emphasis on what pupils have missed over the last 5 months, and they'll have to focus on core skills, especially reading and mathematics.
Naomi Osei's children, Rianne and Aaron, have had some lessons during the lockdown, but in a predominantly African Caribbean school, there are fears around potential new infections and the impact on their development.
My children are quite young, 8 and 6, but there has never been this duration of their life that they have been, in effect, isolated from the community at large. And so I do wonder what type of impact it is having on them.
They'll return to school in the next few days. Across the UK, young and older students will be kept away from other age groups. That'll mean lessons in the same classroom throughout the day to try and reduce any possibility of new infections.
And meanwhile, in China, summer vacation has ended and it is time for students to return to their schools. But something is different this time in the safety measures being applied. Unlike before, face masks could no longer be mandatory in schools like this one in China's Shaanxi province. Correspondent Hu Chao has the story.
The first day of school after a 2-month-long summer holiday.
Actually, all middle schools in Taiwan already reopened in May with strict coronavirus measures in place. But this time, while temperature checks remains a must, wearing masks is no longer mandatory.
我觉得今天的开学似乎比5月份的开学更正式一些。
Today's school opening is more formal than in May, and I feel much more excited this time. After the fight against the coronavirus in the first half of the year, our country has become much safer, and I feel more relieved.
非常的激动和兴奋吧。
I'm very excited. I hope the new semester can go smoothly and safely.
Taiyuan has not reported any new domestic coronavirus cases for the past 6 months. All schools except universities are opening as normal.
这一次开学就是9月1号这个开学。
Local officials have paid great attention to the school opening this time, urging us to implement necessary anti-epidemic measures. Now it's less stressful than in May because we are more experienced in the prevention and control of infectious diseases.
School life is almost the same as before the outbreak, but there are some small differences. Students wash their hands more frequently. Windows are left open for longer periods of time, and disinfection is routinely done.
Since the outbreak, students have learned better hygiene habits. They wash their hands more and do more physical exercise to keep healthy.
Shi added that major anti-epidemic measures have already become the new normal. Schools will continue to monitor the travel history of students and staff, and they're well prepared to respond quickly to any epidemic situation on campus.
Colombia has ended its 5 months COVID-19 lockdown and is advising citizens to begin economic activities again, but with safety in mind. They ought to continue the protocols of hand washing, wearing face masks, and staying home when they don't have to be outside. Correspondent Michelle Big is in Bogota.
It is the opening up of Colombia officially after 5 months of lockdown. The president of Colombia says we're entering a new phase where a lot depends on the individual responsibility of people maintaining social distancing, washing their hands, and if they can, when they can, stay at home. It's not necessarily means that everyone should be out on the streets. So right now the idea is to try to start moving the economy again, but obviously always keeping safe, keeping health first, and trying to make sure that all protocols are taken into account in different shops.
Up next, sports. Nigeria Football Federation to unveil Eagles' new jerseys. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you'll need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, African News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, the Super Eagles will launch their Nike-designed new jerseys in October. NFF's communications department announced this on Tuesday. NFF President Amaju Pinnick says the national team jerseys would be unveiled in New York, London, and Nigeria. Venus Williams is out of the U.S. Open in the first round for the first time in her professional career. She lost in straight sets to Karolina Muchova of the Czech Republic. 40-year-old Williams made her 22nd appearance in a career that has spanned 4 decades. This marks Williams' second consecutive first-round defeat at a Grand Slam event after exiting the Australian Open at the same stage in January. The 7-time Grand Slam champion has been past the 3rd round at a Slam event since 2017. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.